Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking an urgent journey, really, into source material that's just visually stunning, but also, frankly, baffling. The crisis hitting Gemworld.
Yeah, it's quite something.
We're exploring this low-gravity planet. It's made almost entirely of living crystal, and its inhabitants, these unique beings, and this tech-driven catastrophe threatening, what, 2 billion years of history?
2 billion years, yeah. And we're seeing it all through the eyes of Starfleet, who are definitely outsiders here.
Right, outsiders. But there's one insider view that's crucial.
Ah, yes. Lieutenant Melora Pazlar. The only Alasian in Starfleet. And you really have to understand her situation to get the stakes here. Her species, the Alasians, they're just not built for standard gravity, fundamentally. She needs an anti-gravity suit, uses a cane. She was even in a wheelchair back on Deep Space Nine sometimes.
But the irony, the deep irony our sources point
So
out.
exactly, is that she's a decorated war hero because gravity fails. Picard notes her, post-Dominion War, post-Borg conflicts, they needed every skilled person they could get. And on her last ship, when the artificial gravity failed, suddenly she was, quote, in her element.
Flying, soaring.
Saved 192 lives. She's perfectly adapted for disaster on a normal starship, which makes her connection to Gemworld, her home, feel even more, well, urgent now.
Because she's the one raising the alarm, isn't she? Through these dreams.
Debilitating dreams, terrifying, vivid, not just vague feelings, but images of her homeworld actively dying. She recognized it instantly.
As a cry for help.
A desperate telepathic cry, yes, from light years away. She knows something is terribly wrong, that the clock's ticking. She's pushing hard for Starfleet transport because she feels this paradise, her fragile home, is facing total annihilation.
Okay, so let's start there, this paradise. What is Gemworld? Because you mentioned outsiders don't even call it a real planet.
Right, yeah. It kind of flips planetary science on its head. The idea is, it was an ocean world billions of years ago. But over millions of years, these enormous crystals started growing in the oceans. And eventually, well, they grew so large, they basically replaced the need for the liquid solution itself.
Whoa. So the planet...
Like a massive, intricate skeleton. Or maybe a giant snowflake made of prisms. It's beautiful, apparently, but because it has such low mass, trace gravity, really, Federation scientists tend to dismiss it. Not a real planet, artificial construct, that kind of thing.
Sounds incredibly delicate. How does a giant crystal snowflake sustain life without, the gravity?
That's where the ancient tech comes in. It's really sophisticated. Life is literally sustained by the crystals.
The crystals themselves are alive. They're grown, nurtured, using these complex things called fractal models and a process that involves converted matter and these nourishment strands running through them. But the key to the low gravity, the real trick, is the core.
A core. Okay, what about it?
Historically, it was molten, metallic, like a normal terrestrial planet core.
Right. But the ancients, the original builders, they did something drastic. Our sources say they sacrificed the core.
Sacrificed it?
How? They used its mass, its material, to perpetually fuel and grow the crystal network across the planet. So now, the core is hollow. Completely hollow. And it's the single most weightless part of the entire planet.
That's incredible engineering. They deliberately traded core stability for this crystal lattice life support system.
Exactly. Tailor-made for low-gravity life. A massive, intricate structure perfect for species like the Alasians.
A true crystalline aviary, then. You can just picture them flying, soaring between these giant crystal monoliths and archways.
Yeah.
But it's not just the Alasians, right? The planet is shared. That complexity must play into the crisis.
Absolutely. It's crucial. There are 6 distinct sentient species coexisting there. The internal politics are, well, complex doesn't really cover.
Right, let's tick them off. We know Melora's people, the Alasians.
Right. V-shaped forehead ridges, very communal society. They have the saying, all each other's parents and children. Really deep communal bonds.
Okay, who else?
Then you have the Lipuls, maybe the most ancient, certainly the most mysterious. They're amorphous, kind of jellyfish-like, and they live deep inside the crystal itself, in the marrow or the gel centers.
And they're the telepaths, the ones who contacted Starfleet.
That's them. They use these incredible telepathic constructs called dream ships. That's how they made first contact with the Federation, actually, over 200 years ago.
Wow.
And it's how they're reaching out now desperately to Melora and also to Counselor Troi, confirming just how bad things are.
Okay, Lipuls. Who else makes up this society?
There are the Alpusta, spiny things, multi-legged. They kind of bob around on these retractable webs, often seem to be workers maintaining the outer structures. And the Yiltern. These are fascinating conceptually. What you see looks like maybe a single flying carpet sort of shape.
Uh-huh.
But the sources clarify it's actually a flock. Thousands of tiny bat-like creatures acting as one single collective intelligence.
A swarm intelligence.
Pretty much. So you put 6 species like that together. Alasians, Lipuls, Alpusta, Yulturn, and 2 others in this fragile crystal environment. Any internal conflict is going to be explosive. Which brings us to the crisis.
Right. This engineered marvel, this ancient system, is suddenly failing catastrophically.
Yeah.
And it starts deep inside, near that hollow core.
Yes. The first warning signs came from a student leader, Tandra. She was near the core, the planet's birthplace, really, and saw something terrifying.
Which was?
Crystal growth, but wrong. Unruly, dark, almost cancerous was the description. Growing in huge amounts, totally unlike the normal, managed growth. Destructive overproduction.
And there was something else associated with it. Radiation.
Exactly. Dangerously high levels of thoron radiation linked directly to this new dark growth.
Okay, so a double crisis. Bad growth inside, deadly radiation coming from somewhere. How are they connected?
They're connected by the planet's main defense and life support system, the outer shield. The inhabitants call it the sacred protector.
A sacred protector.
Yeah. It's this huge shell, a complex of force fields, basically. Does 2 vital things. Keeps the breathable atmosphere in, which is obviously critical in trace gravity.
Yeah.
And it collects dark matter. That's their primary energy source. They've figured out how to use dark matter effectively, something the Federation is still, struggling with.
Okay, and this dark matter connection is where things get really scary based on the Enterprise's encounter.
Oh, yeah. Terrifying.
Oh.
The Enterprise arrives and is almost immediately pulled backward towards this thing. An opaque, black dimensional rift, a singularity nearby in space.
A rift, and it's the source.
It's actively spewing the dark matter, and that dark matter is generating the thoron radiation. Data has a theory. He thinks it's some kind of rapid equalization, dark matter flooding from another dimension into theirs through this rift.
Okay, but if the rift is external, spewing this stuff,
Yeah.
how is it an internal failure? You mentioned the Jepta faction, the traditionalists, they were saying the protector was infallible, right?
They absolutely insisted on it. But Starfleet's investigation, once they got access, uncovered deliberate internal sabotage.
Sabotage, how?
The system that manages the crystal growth, that delicate balance, it's run by something called the fractal multiplying program. This program, which uses those fractal models to ensure healthy, efficient growth, it was compromised.
Compromised how?
It was running in an encrypted, endless loop, locked, repeating a faulty instruction over and over.
Okay, let's trace that. Bad code leads to planetary death in 8 days. How does that work? Explain that link for us.
Okay, think of the fractal program as the planet's metabolism manager. It's supposed to keep everything efficient.
Right.
When it gets stuck in this faulty encrypted loop, it starts forcing the system to produce massive amounts of crystal, but it's low quality, inferior crystal, junk crystal, basically.
Okay, that cancer again, uncontrolled growth.
Exactly. And this rampant, useless growth takes a huge amount of energy. So to compensate for this sudden, massive energy drain, the sacred protector, the shell, it had to ramp up its collection.
Pulling in more dark matter.
Way more. It was forced to increase dark matter collection 16-fold.
16 times.
Yeah. And that massive acceleration is what's pulling in so much of the highly radiative dark matter from that dimensional rift, amplifying the thoron poisoning across the whole planet.
Wow. So the sabotage wasn't about shutting things down. It was about pushing the system into overdrive using a deadly fuel source.
Well, precisely.
A really insidious kind of sabotage. And the kicker, access to that core programming, the fractal multiplying program, it was restricted, limited to only 6 senior engineers.
One from each sentient species.
Exactly. Which immediately turns this whole thing into, well, a planetary-scale locked-room murder mystery.
A mystery complicated by politics. The Jepta faction, the traditionalists you mentioned, led by Tangre Berteron, they're helping.
They're actively hindering at first, fiercely protective of the shell, the sacred protector. They see it as holy, a relic. Any inspection by Starfleet, especially probing its systems, they see it as blasphemy. They refuse to believe the problem could be internal treachery. But then, the evidence becomes undeniable.
Tragically so. Zuka Juno, the Alasian senior engineer, one of the 6 with access, is found murdered, locked inside the actual programming room.
Okay, that seals it. It is internal. One of those 6 engineers is a murderer and a saboteur.
And here's where things get, well, a bit classically Starfleet, maybe. Lieutenant Barclay, poor Reg, the famously anxious engineer from the Enterprise.
Oh, no. So tell me.
He accidentally gets tangled up in the inheritance protocols or something and finds himself holding Zuka Juno's violet crystal key. He becomes the acting senior engineer proxy.
Barclay.
Yep.
The guy with transporter phobia is now holding the key to saving Gemworld.
The very same. But figuring out how to use that key, how to stop the crisis, is where everything gets incredibly difficult, because the different factions on Gemworld give Starfleet completely contradictory advice.
Okay, conflicting advice.
From who? From the traditionalist Jepta and from the ancient Lipuls, polar opposites.
Let's start with the Jepta, Tangri Bertrand's group. What do they want Starfleet to do, or rather, not do?
Their focus is totally on immediate life preservation, especially for the oxygen breathers like themselves. They warn Picard very strongly, do not disable the sacred protector, don't touch the force fields.
Why not?
Because they say the second those fields drop, the breathable atmosphere will just, poof, escape instantly into the trace gravity vacuum. It would mean the immediate death of almost every oxygen-dependent life form on the planet, including themselves and the Starfleet crew.
Okay, that sounds bad.
Yeah.
But the Lipuls, the ancient jellyfish telepaths, they have a different idea.
A terrifyingly different idea. They communicate through their crystal translator, which pulses in time with their thoughts, and they instruct Picard's team to do the exact opposite.
Yes.
Kill the sacred protector, shut it down completely.
Hemisphere. Everyone dies.
From the Lipuls' perspective, yes, that's a potential consequence, but it's secondary. They have this millennia-long view. They see the oxygen-breathing life as, well, it may be transient compared to the planet itself.
That's harsh.
It's brutal calculus. Disabling the shell stops the collection of the deadly dark matter immediately. It ends the radiation crisis for the planet, even if it means the extinction of most of the current inhabitants. Their message is chillingly blunt. Death is the end, also the beginning.
Wow. Talk about being caught between a rock and a hard place. Save the people now and risk the planet dying slowly from radiation, or save the planet's structure and sacrifice almost everyone living there right now.
It's an impossible choice. And Starfleet knows direct action is risky. Their first attempt to sort of overpower the collection dishes without shutting down the whole shield, it failed catastrophically, killed over 1,000 Alpusta workers caught in the energy backlash.
Oh, God. So the only real path forward is finding the saboteur among the remaining 5 engineers and breaking that encryption.
Before the radiation levels become unsurvivable. Which brings us back to Melora.
Yeah, this must be tearing her apart. She left her home, became an outsider partly because of its traditions, and now she returns to find it being destroyed by betrayal within those traditions.
The psychological weight is immense, and it's felt by others too, especially Commander Troi. Her empathy makes her central here.
She initially doubted Melora's dreams.
Right, she did, understandably. But then the Lipuls contacted Troi directly with their dream ships, confirmed the emergency in a way that was utterly terrifying and undeniable for her.
And the rift itself.
Yeah.
It's not just a natural phenomenon, is it? There's something malevolent there.
That seems to be the case. When Troi later probes the dimensional rift with her abilities, she has this violent, terrifying psychological reaction. The source material is clear. She connects the blackness, the singularity, to visions of beastly and horrible destruction.
So it's not just physics. There's an intelligence or a force on the other side, and it's hostile.
It seems that way, actively reaching through, using the dark matter flow, perhaps unintentionally amplified by the sabotage, to cause destruction.
On the clock, it's ticking faster and faster because of that 16-fold increase.
Data runs the final projection. It's grim. At the current rate of increase, the Thoron radiation will reach lethal levels for almost all life on Gemworld, including the away teams, most of the Enterprise crew trying to help in approximately 8 days.
8 days. The stakes just couldn't be higher.
No.
So let's bring this together for you, the listener. You've got this incredible world, Gemworld, built on ancient, almost unbelievable technology, and it's facing this two-pronged existential threat. There's an external danger, this apparently malevolent rift spewing radioactive dark matter.
Right. And then there's the internal threat. One of the planet's own senior engineers has betrayed everyone, using the ancient systems, the fractal program, for destruction, leveraging the sacred protector against itself.
And Starfleet, with Barclay holding the key, has to somehow navigate the internal politics, the Jepta resistance, find the saboteur among 5 suspects, and break that encrypted code.
All while the radiation climbs, with only 8 days left.
The core tension here, the thing this deep dive really exposes, is this failure of faith, isn't it?
I think so. The Jepta, the ones most fiercely devoted to tradition, they feared external interference. They were convinced Starfleet would somehow sabotage their sacred protector.
But the real danger was already inside.
Exactly. The catastrophe wasn't caused by outsiders meddling. It came from internal treachery, exploiting the very system they believed was totally infallible. Which leaves us with a really provocative question, I think.
Go on.
When those ancient traditions, that kind of blind faith, actively stop people from seeing the evidence right in front of them, evidence needed for sheer survival, how much value should we, or they, place on holding on to them?
A question Starfleet has to grapple with while racing the clock to save a world of living crystal. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.